Good afternoon. Today is July 21st, 2025. I call to order the meeting of the Tennessee Local Development Authority. We do have a fiscal quorum without telephonic participation today, so no roll call votes will be necessary, hopefully. Do we have anyone from the public that wishes to address this body today? Ms. Thompson, you know of anyone?
I am not aware of any.
I didn't see anybody standing outside waiting, so that's a good sign. All right, our next item of business, approval of minutes from the June 23rd, 2025 meeting. They are in your packet. Hopefully you've taken the opportunity to review them. Chair will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Properly moved, properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's have a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The minutes are approved. Next, we'll hear from Ms. Vina Jones regarding the state revolving fund drinking water loan. And we'll hear about the balances of the fund, as well as take up one item today. Ms. Jones.
Thank you. Thank you, Board. Today, we're going to review the drinking water state revolving fund established loan obligation balances, as well as review one request for a loan. Our unobligated balance for the SRF program is $59,064,109. We have one request today. That request is $4.4 million, and if approved, will bring the total available funds for loan to $54,656,909. We also have funds still available in our emerging contaminants program, and that number is $5,490,347. We don't have any loans to present at this time for that drinking water fund. And finally, we have still plenty of money in our lead service line loan fund of $118,097,948. We do have a lot of requests for that. As we migrate to our new service, we're just a little delayed getting loans in hands, but we are getting a lot of good requests for that funding.
All right, any questions about those balances, that report? All right, let's move along. Let's take up our item from Cedar Grove Utility District.
Fantastic. Today I'm presenting
Say that.
I'm presenting a loan request from Cedar Grove Utility District. This is a drinking water utility in Carroll County that serves 617 customers. They have requested a $4.4 million loan to replace 83,000 linear feet of existing asbestos line for those customers. SRF has reviewed all of their documentation and determined for eligibility that the utility is a small or disadvantaged community, is in a small or disadvantaged community and eligible for 50% loan forgiveness, making the debt request $2.2 million of repayable principal over 20 years with a 1.97% interest rate. We have done a financial sufficiency review and determined that they are financially sufficient based in part with the $406 revenue they generate, charging their customers $78.75 per 5,000 gallons. The utility has provided all of the technical, administrative, and financial documents required to be approvable for a loan. They did file their audit late. They said that was due to complications from other utility construction projects and grants, namely American Rescue Plan and such. Too much work for them to get it on time, I guess. They have pledged a security deposit equal to 1 year's annual debt service of $133,392. And they have notified the public as well as provided all of the appropriate loan package information, which we have provided for the board for your review and vote to approval or not.
All right, you've heard the item. Any questions of Ms. Jones? Chair will entertain a motion. Properly moved, properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's have a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Item's approved. Thank you, Ms. Jones. Our next item is report on the Tennessee Local Development Authority Debt and Loan Program. Ms. Thompson, you going to handle that for us?
Yes, sir. There is a report enclosed in your packets. Again, we report to you annually on the debt and loans outstanding for the Tennessee Local Development Authority. I'll just briefly go over these numbers. So for the State Loan Program Fund, we have $315,000 in bonds outstanding. For our State Infrastructure Fund, we have loan outstanding in the amount of $1,106,000. For our Clean Water State Revolving Fund, we have $887,443,753 in loans outstanding. That represents 228 loans that we administer on an annual basis. In addition, we have the Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Fund. That's $169,941,581. That represents 156 loans outstanding that we administer on an annual basis. I should say monthly. If y'all have any questions, let me know.
Any questions about that report? All right, Ms. Thompson, thank you for the report. I believe item number 5 has been deferred. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
We need to have any conversation about that?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next item is discussion request from the Ocoee Utility District from the June 23rd, 2025 meeting. Ms. Thompson, you have anything to say before we begin that discussion?
I believe I would like for Comptroller to provide his comments, if that's all right.
Mr. Comptroller, would you like to provide your comments? Ms. Thompson wants you to. And she works for you. So
I've been very successful doing what she says. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The item is before us, I guess, and I know that we have several people here from Ocoee who will ask to come down now or in a second or any time. So if you're here, particularly, we have the manager, Tim Lawson, is here, and I think we have the board chair, Sean Willis, and we have financial advisor for the items we're discussing, Larry Kidwell. At least the three of you all come down, and others can come if needed or desired.
Pat Alexander as well. Is that correct? Is Pat Alexander here with us today?
He was not able to make it
Okay.
today.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much for being here, and thank you for the time that you have invested over these past few weeks meeting with me personally, and I think, although I don't know, the time you've spent meeting with other members of the board since the last meeting. You know, in our meetings, I have told you something that I have said publicly over the last 5 years that I have served as comptroller across the state. Many times when I am speaking before a utility group, or I'm speaking before a city or county group, if somebody asks me what keeps me up at night as comptroller, and even if they don't ask me, I take the opportunity to say what I'll reiterate today. The thing that keeps me up at night as comptroller more than anything is the state of financial health of utilities across the state. That is the one thing that is most concerning to me in my day-to-day job as comptroller. And I say that because it is so important, the service you deliver to your ratepayers and your residents, providing clean water for systems that provide sewer service. It's extraordinarily important. Everybody understands that it can't be overstated, the importance of the work you do, and I'm very grateful for it. Last month, we had a request come to us to sign off on or approve 2 debt issuances, a $25 million debt issuance and a $37.5 million debt issuance, and through that discussion and since that time, it has brought to light many issues of concern in regard to the operation of the Ocoee Utility District. So I asked at the last meeting for you all to be here today to talk about some of the issues. Members, for you on this Tennessee Local Development Authority, it's important that you know that this is not the only board staffed by the Comptroller's Office that regulates utilities. There's another board called the Tennessee Board of Utility Regulation, or TBOR. That board met in this room last Thursday. They oversee other types of operations of utilities across the state. At that meeting last week, I think you may have had the opportunity to view the video from that meeting. Several people who are here today testified, and the TBOR, in its role, effectively froze the opportunity of this Ocoee Utility District to borrow money until certain other things were accomplished. That happened because Ocoee is in a period of financial distress, which is a period defined by law, and other things which we'll probably discuss today. Although for anybody watching, an important footnote to the meeting today is to go back online and watch the footage of that meeting from last Thursday. In that you all are here today, Mr. Chairman of the board, you as really a citizen, a ratepayer, want to begin with you. If you will, introduce yourself, talk to us about your background, how long you've been on the board, how you came to be in this position.
I'm sure if you don't care,
Yes.
I would like for all four of them to introduce themselves.
Good idea.
You can.
Sure.
Name, title, and then let's jump back into your question.
Good idea. If you want to start, Tim, down here, the manager.
Yes, Tim Lawson, General Manager. Jason.
And Tim, how long you been there?
Right at 30 years.
Very good.
Jason Griffin, I'm the consulting engineer. I'm with OHM Advisors. I've been working with the Ocoee Utility District for nearly 27 years.
And I'm going to ask y'all to kind of lean into the microphones. I know that it may seem kind of awkward, but please do that for us, okay?
Very well.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. Sean Willis. I am currently serving as president of the Board of Commissioners for Ocoee Utilities in Cleveland, Tennessee. I have been on the Board of Commissioners since 2008 and serving as president for the last 5 years.
Hello, Board. My name is Larry Kidwell. I'm the president of Kidwell and Company. The company was founded in 2001. Before that, I worked with J.C. Bradford and Company beginning in 1987, and then the bond division of First Tennessee Bank. This is my 38th year in providing public finance advisory and investment banking services for issuers in Tennessee and in 18 other states. It's a pleasure to be back before you. Also representing Kidwell and Company today on calling in to this meeting is Mr. Ed Fierro of the firm Bracewell. Bracewell serves as Kidwell and Company's corporate compliance counsel. Mr. Fierro served previously before his partnership with Bracewell as chief counsel, senior counsel to the Office of Municipal Securities at the Securities and Exchange Commission. So he advises Kidwell and Company on compliance matters of all sorts. So wanted to introduce also Mr. Fierro, who has joined us today.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kidwell. Comptroller, you want to resume your questioning, perhaps?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And members, as you all know, the responsibility of this board is to really have a look at the financial operations of utilities, whereas TBOR does look quite a bit at kind of the operational infrastructure type, as well as financial issues regarding utilities. An important thing to acknowledge, I think, and you can again go back and review last week's video, but important thing to acknowledge is that the Ocoee Utility District has some real infrastructure needs. There's no question about that. And without question, this group, this board, this group of people, the TBOR, are all very interested in helping you address those issues. What we're talking about specifically today is really the financial matters related to this. And so, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'll start with you. What really brought this to light was the extraordinary level of fees related. That's what really kind of set this off, so to speak. And I acknowledge that this board does not currently have a policy that requires utilities to demonstrate a bid in regard to financial advisory services. However, still, we do expect utilities, utility management, utility boards to exercise their fiduciary responsibility on behalf of their ratepayers to seek the best deal for their ratepayers, especially when they represent a utility like yours, which is in an area of the state that is rural and socioeconomically distressed to some degree, and in that you operate a utility that is financially distressed. So if you will, talk to us as a board member about these two issuances, why you believe they're necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. We have always used Mr. Kidwell and Company for our financial advisory. Historically, Mr. Kidwell has saved us money by the way that he operates, the way that he goes out and he gets people to come together to create a more competitive bid. He does charge a fee for that, but that fee has always been less than us going out and getting just a mainstream type loan, because he does a good job of getting. So, for example, if we were to go out right now, it would be almost a 6.25% interest rate, where Mr. Kidwell is able to come in and get us almost a 4% interest rate. So even though his fees seem expensive on the front end, it does save us overall debt on the term of the bond.
Okay, thank you very much. I think, and I appreciate that. I think on the front end, well, let me take what you said and kind of go from there. We have two different types of issuances here. We have a $25 million general obligation issuance, and then we have a $37.5 million USDA issuance. And I guess really the question I was getting at first is, you decided, even though you're in a situation where you're financially distressed, even though you're in a situation where you have some debt outstanding already, you decided that it was the prudent thing to do to add this $62.5 million worth of debt in order to, if I remember, you can tell me if I'm right, to shore up the deteriorating infrastructure that you have in the ground, as well as expand your service to offer wastewater so as to potentially add more customers to relieve the burden on the customers you already have. Is that fair?
Yes, sir. That is fair. And to add to the wastewater, one of the things that we are seeing in our county is bad soil for the wastewater. And we're having a lot of failing decentralized septic systems in our area. And we're trying to help those people who are having this issue, some even being kicked out of their homes. And we can't just ignore that. So we've been trying to help our community by offering wastewater. Does that answer your question, Mr.
Yes, thank
Comptroller?
you. In regard to the two different types of debt issuances, again, you have a $25 million general obligation offering where there is, I suppose, an art to working or making sure that you're in a condition to get the best interest rate possible. On the other larger issuance, the $37.5 million USDA issuance, it really is no different than a bank loan in most cases. And the fee structure, as I have it, and Sandy, if you have them with you, you can correct it for the record. The fee for the $25 million general obligation offering is somewhere in the range of, do you have the exact number?
I believe it's $375,000.
$375,000 for the GO, and then for the $37.5 million USDA. Do you have that number?
For the bond anticipation note issuance, it's $625,000, I believe.
$625,000. Do you all disagree with those numbers? Is that at least an approximation?
They should equate to about 1.5% of all the issuance.
And so dollar-wise, that comes out to approximately $950,000, $1 million.
That sounds
Roundabout.
That sounds close. Yes,
Roundabout.
sir,
For discussion, I think that's close. And of course, this debt, which is $62.5 million, in addition to the debt you already have outstanding, will, if it were approved, would leave you somewhere between $80 and $90 million in total debt outstanding. Is that correct?
That is correct, I think.
Yes, and so between $80 and $90 million worth of debt, that debt would be spread over your 8,400 ratepayers, about 400 of which are commercial and 8,000 of which are residential. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
All right.
Mr. Comptroller.
Yes.
May I, just by means of context, I think it might be beneficial for the board, and we hadn't gone there to hear, but for the board to hear something about what the chairman of the board does in his professional life and his background as in his profession in becoming chairman of the board. So I would just have that request.
Sure, expand on that. That would be great. We talked about that earlier. Go ahead and expand on that.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. I have an engineering degree, mechanical engineering degree from the Georgia Institute of Technology. I worked in poultry for 21 years as a technical director designing equipment for the same. Now currently own 11 different companies that design, manufacture, and install large-scale equipment for commercial eggs and dairies. And that's pretty
Around the
much
world, you said.
mainly North America.
Yeah.
But we do work in Europe. Yes, sir.
Very good. And I think that's very relevant in your experience. I have no doubt it's important to the board. So just some rough calculating. Again, the debt between $80 and $90 million is spread out over 8,400 ratepayers, 400 commercial, 8,000 residential. In comparing this with other utilities that the Comptroller's Office regulates or the TBOR regulates, that is a pretty big load of debt on what is a very small or a relative medium-sized to small population of ratepayers. And so that's a concern. In regard to the approximated fees, that comes out to about $115 per household, or $115 per ratepayer. So, Mr. Chairman, based on your experience, both as a business person, as a ratepayer, as a member of this community, what about the financial advisory services that you have been offered is worth $115 per ratepayer?
Mr. Comptroller, it is my honest belief that Larry, Mr. Kidwell, saves our ratepayers money by the method he uses in order to do our bond issuances. It is my honest belief that he has always saved us money, even though his rates, when put like that, that's a lot. I don't know if my wife would like hearing that, but yes, it's a lot. I still believe it would be more if we didn't use his services and we did more traditional methods.
Thank you. And I do believe, I do believe in regard to the general obligation issuance, the more that can be done to assist you as a utility on the front end to accomplish the best rate on the back end is helpful. But let's turn just a little bit to the thing that probably bothers or stands out the most. I won't say bothers, but stands out the most. And Sandy, I have a slide if you don't care to put it up on the screen. I asked my office's Division of Local Government Finance to look back at USDA issuances over the past few years. And members of this board, we sent this to you ahead of time. You can see right here just several dozen USDA issuances over the past very few years, and you can see it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth column over what the financial advisory fee is in regard to those issuances. The first thing that will stand out to you is that many of those are blank, because these utilities did not use a financial advisor and did not have a financial advisory fee. Again, because these USDA issuances are for the most part, very similar to a bank loan. You can see right here that we have Macon County. On the first line, we have the town of Athens did a $35 million USDA issuance for $30,000. You have Macon County that did a $35 million issuance for $62,500 with Raymond James. Again, we see $40,000. We go down there and we see Crockett County, which did one for $5,000. And we see, we do see the town of Jonesboro did one for $242,000. But we see, as you can see, that the fee for this USDA issuance is when you look at this chart and you look at the experience of other communities across the state, well larger than that. And it's hard to understand.
Comptroller.
Oh, I was going to mention too that pretty much more than half of those, there is no fee associated with it.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Chairman or Mr. Kidwell, any thoughts in response to the comptroller's statement and spreadsheet?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, absolutely. I'm wondering if there is any sense of the interest rates that were associated with any of these obligations where we're looking at fees. Do we have also the interest rates?
I think what I would say in regard to that is, again, this is a USDA issuance, and the art of that interest rate, which I acknowledge exists in the general obligation offering, is not the same under the USDA program.
If I can ask a question, and I know less about this than the comptroller, so you don't hear me say that very often. So, so I might think it, I don't say it. So, Mr. Kimball, help us. Is there a wide variation of interest rates for USDA loans?
Thank you for the opportunity to address. There can be, yes, absolutely. For instance, through the years, USDA has changed their method of funding their loans. At a point in time, USDA funded and provided their own interim financing to the loans that they made. At a point in time more recently, USDA decided to go back to an older model, a new model now, where that in amounts above $500,000, the best I understand, they're requiring for interim financing or bond anticipation notes to be issued in connection therewith. So with that being said, so if I'm looking at the Ocoee transaction, what I'm seeing is the USDA loan is going to be the takeout. In the meantime, they require interim funding. The interim funding in areas in programs, we looked at a couple of different ones. One through an organization by the name of CoBank, that is a national lender, interim funder for USDA interim financing. Another, National Rural Water, has a program that is out there that does a significant amount of USDA interim financing. So, and appreciating the opportunity, the one program uses a base rate of what used to be called LIBOR. It's now called SOFR. As a base rate to establish a spread above a base rate. So historical average on this base rate is a 4.37% over 180 days. So upon that rate, they add an additional, depending on the information I've seen, between 150 or additional 1.5 or 2 points. So then we're in the atmosphere of an interest rate that would be somewhere around 6.25, 6 to 6.5. So if I take 6.25, the middle part of that rate, and I did just a few quick calculations, and I then go back to my HP 12C, I'm going into it now. If I go in and calculate the interest on 6.25% over 3 years, that would be $7,031,000 approximately. With what we're doing with this particular deal, along with the bond deal, it would be a separate official statement. It would be a separate credit rating process. It's going to be a separate, different identifiable group of potential buyers or underwriters of the bonds. We think at this point that the interest rate, if going through a credit rating process to get the highest credit rating possible available through Standard & Poor's or Moody's, a MIDS 1 or SP1 note rating, that's going to drop the interest rate significantly. That's a special type of approach through the credit rating agencies that would be associated with interim funding that we would utilize. So if awarded the higher credit rating, then my thought today at market that the interest rate for the bands at 3 years would be somewhere between 3.75 and 4%, approximately. So then if you took our fee at 1.5, that would be divided 50 a half point year to year to year. So if we're at 4%, just to call it, easy calculations, if we're at 4% and added a half point to that over 3 years, then that'd be a 4.5%. Versus what may be a zero fee, 6.25% over the 3 years, then if I'm recalling the number, that would give it at a 4.5% over 3 years interest costs all-in costs of $5,062,000 approximately. So moving back from that, the differential between the two, if I can get pop-ups off my screen, between the 6.25 at zero versus the 375,204 plus the 50 basis points of RFE would be $1,968,000 that Ocoee would be better off by paying the fee and getting the lower interest rate. So that's one way to look at it. So another way would be anything that would be, above a 4.5 would be this way of going. The approach we're discussing is a better approach. So that's a long answer, Mr. Chairman.
Follow along. I'm still. I have to admit to you, I didn't realize such a wide variation there could be among USDA loan rates. I just wasn't aware of that. And in your proposal that you've created value that allows them to see a lower rate on that USDA loan. I'm kind of thinking, you mentioned recency. I'm really trying to figure out, if I went back and I looked at the Macon County interest rate. Macon County's at the very top. I'm trying here, I think it's $35 million is the debt issue face amount. They paid a fee, I think, of $62,500. Well, now y'all enlarge it for me. Thank you. I'm trying to figure out what Macon County missed. If I were to look at their interest rate, is it that far afield from what you believe the Ocoee region, the Ocoee utility district loan rate might be?
I do not see any interest rate context.
I don't expect you to know. I mean, I really don't. I mean, you can't be an expert on every loan around the state and what those rates were. I'm surprised that there is that variation among districts on a USDA rate.
May I offer a
Certainly, if you've got something that can illuminate my understanding, that'd be great.
Get this closer, make sure we're all on the same page. Understand, I've done several USDA loans in my career, and so you have this interim period in which that's not the final USDA, interest rate. So you got the local bank that you might go to. I've worked with a lot of utilities that just go to the local bank and get their interim financing. So comparatively speaking to what Mr. Kidwell is presented, the process that he is offering for the Ocoee Utility District is very similar to the $25 million obligation issue, is that he goes out and brings back the competitive market for this short-term interim financing. So the spread that he was just talking about is projected right now is a savings for the Ocoee Utility District of approximately $2 million in a period of 3 years in interim interest. So when you ask the question, why the fee? Well, he is presenting an option for the district to save money, which translates to lower rates.
I appreciate you putting it that way. I feel like I picked up on that. I'm really trying to figure out what every other utility district out there is missing. Mayor Brown?
I think I am missing something as well, because I'm not saying that you are, but I think I am missing something because it's interim funding. You said 3-year period, and I don't really understand why the issuance is the full amount for a temporary period. I don't understand why that is or why that must be.
Why the interim funding is necessary?
Well, why the full amount would be required in that instance, because if it's for a 3-year period, I don't understand that 3-year period, I think, and what's required of that is funding.
I can answer that. So that's the construction period.
Right.
So it's like an equity line like you would have for any other loan that you would take out personally. So it's a pool of money that we're able to go directly to with no strings attached, and be able to pay the contractors and other entities in order to get the project done. Then at project closing, USDA
Then reimburses the
buys that back, and then you get your final interest rate, which is estimated around 3%.
Okay.
So I think that was an important question that Larry asked about the interest rate on these particular issuances here because, it'd be interesting to know what those were, especially with Athens for $35 million that they paid during that interim period for whatever they were doing. But compared to the final USDA.
Yeah, and the argument
Right.
is that the credit rating can be improved so that a lower interest is offered by a bank. I frankly would be concerned that the rating is going to be what the rating is based on the current status of the district, and all of the efforts may not actually save any money, that it is what it is.
Madam Mayor, if I may, sadly, that is a broad view that many municipalities and issuers have in the state of Tennessee and other states as well. And when you dig past the surface, when you go into a paradigm where you're moving toward maximizing the value of the financial instrument, the bond, the band, the debt instrument that you're selling, then you're breaking out a mold. You're how to put that better? You're doing something different than most people do or most entities do, and it's across the country. I have concern that we see hundreds of billions of dollars each year that otherwise are being paid in interest costs by municipalities across the country that otherwise would not have to be paid if they engaged in more vigorous credit and competitive processes to lower the interest rates that are otherwise associated with their instruments.
Well, I appreciate that, and I speak as an entity that does use an advisor and that has competed for an improvement in our rating unsuccessfully, but we're very, very close to the top. So I'll take that for now, but you know more than I do about how that may reflect in the ultimate rating. That's all.
For USDA, the opportunity is even more specialized because the rating agencies have specific programs that you have to seek in order to have them engage and rate the interim financing at a level that would be higher than what may be the otherwise underlying credit rating of the entity be made higher because of the U.S. government takeout of funds. And so if you don't seek the higher rating, then it will not be assigned. So
I want to just say the secretary had to leave. He's asked me to chair the meeting, so I'm going to take it from here. That's okay. I have one thing, Mr. Kidwell, particularly is I'm curious about. So I get your argument about and the board and the utilities argument about you save the money in the long run because of the interest rate and the way you go about it. Here's what I'd like for you to explain to me is some of these other firms seems like would have that ability, but they're not charging the same. And the other thing that seems odd to me is you all have been around a long time, but I don't see your name on this list anywhere. And I'm just curious because I don't understand that part. Could you help me with that a little bit?
Certainly, Mr. Commissioner. When I founded my company in 2001, it was my 12th year going into longer in the investment banking business. MAs were not, financial advisors were not regulated at the time. But I had been a part of business models where that we tried to sign everyone, led a large bank in Tennessee to #1 market share, doing many deals in a year. And in founding my company, it just seemed to me there were a couple of things that were missing. One, I did not feel like that handling that many clients at the same time, I could actually say I was performing a fiduciary duty and serving as a financial advisor. Again, this was before regulation. So it seemed to me I needed to handle fewer clients, number one. Number two, a main inspiring reason for founding my company was the notice of a lack of competition in the markets for the financial products of issuers in Tennessee and other places. And so the idea of handling fewer clients, establishing a basis of excellence, innovating through the process, bringing competition and focusing on increasing credit ratings leads to a higher bond pricing and the results being savings. So I don't know if I fully answered your question, Commissioner, but we do not seek to serve a large body of clients. We have few clients. That's always been the case. And when considering a client, we don't even have a website. I mean, it's through referral mostly. And I want to say this the right way because we want to help everyone that we can. But we want to do so in such a way that if every client that we had at any one time needed access to the capital markets, we would not be overcommitted. And we're a small firm. And along with that, making sure that they get the detail that I would feel they need in order to perform at the highest level they can. So our name wouldn't be on a higher list. There are entities here where historically we have served as their financial advisor.
Okay, all right. Other questions or comments from the board? Yeah, Mayor?
Thank you, Commissioner. The your ratings have went from negative or went from stable to negative. Is that a direct relation to this bond issuance here?
Turn my microphone off. I'm sorry. So in 2006, when we became, in 2009, we became a financial advisor for the district. Their credit rating in their previous deal was an A-. In reformulating approach in 2009 with their issuance of bonds, their rating went to a AA-, up 3 credit rating grades. The rating remained at AA- from 2009 up until and through 2021. At that point in time, you're going to notice and you're going to hear requests for help. The system began to experience HDPE pipe degradation in increasing frequency. The pipe degradation is systemic within the district, and in 181 square miles, which I believe makes Sequoia one of the largest land area utility districts in the state of Tennessee. This type of pipe was utilized in about half of the system. The pipe is interesting because it was, my understanding, originally produced for use for something other than water and sewer. And is still being sold into water and sewer systems. The pipe has been, others have found increasingly, the engineers would be better qualified to speak to this than I, but have found that the degradation is caused by exposure to chlorine. So, which in every water system I'm aware of, you have some chlorine, maybe not much, but in this district, it's a large amount of a pipe that is degrading, and so that may be part of another. And I'll stop and be happy to answer follow-up questions. It's the reason that they find themselves now in financial distress, although they're coming out of that financial distress.
That's all I have for now, Mr. Commissioner.
That's all you have?
Thank you.
Thank you. Others?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Kind of back to where I was going before, I did ask my staff to check the Macon County interest rate from earlier this year in 2025 was 4.45%, which is really fairly good in today's time. And again, do we have anybody here from the USDA today? No, we don't. We may in the future. Mr. Chairman, back to you. I know in the testimony last week that was given at TBOR, it was said when you decided to go to this deal, and you've talked about your long relationship with Larry. I have a long relationship with Larry, like 30 years. So I know he's a good guy. In the testimony last week, you just said you've been a customer. You just decided to stick with him. Particularly based on your experience as a businessman, have you all ever taken time to shop around, to look around, to evaluate, other pricing or services operated by other firms? Have you just demonstrated on behalf of your ratepayers any shopping around?
Mr. Comptroller, I was not present during the meeting last week.
It was Manager Tim Lawson that testified that when you pursued this bond issuance. So maybe, Tim, the question can be for you. In your testimony in front of TBOR last week, you heard the question. You just said you didn't look around. You just kind of went with Kidwell and Company as you had since 2009.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
And have you, on behalf of your ratepayers at any point since 2009, shopped around, or you just kind of been happy and?
Yes, we've just been happy and that's it.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, back to you as a member of the board, in that you've overseen a utility that has not at any point in time since 2009 shopped around. Do you think that's a good business practice, or why do you think that's a solid idea on behalf of your ratepayers?
I've always felt comfortable with the fact that Kidwell and Company could show the savings that they were bringing to the utility, specifically to the ratepayers. Of course, the board wants what's best for the utility, of course. And I guess in lieu of what you've shown me here, we will bring that up at our board meeting next Monday and maybe do that.
Sure. And again, as I told you when we met privately, and I'm telling you here, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. You understand the situation this board is in. When we make a decision to approve something like a borrowing of this magnitude, and that falls back on your ratepayers call their legislators, and their legislators, do you know who they call?
You.
This group sitting right here. And so I think it is important for the public record, to have you all testify on behalf of the ratepayers you represent. And that's all I'm asking you to do today. Switching over, first off, I'll say I understand where you're coming from in regard to the USDA talking about the interim, but based on what we've seen, I'm really not sure it's that cut and dried. Or I'm really not sure it's always that way with the USDA, and I'm not going to say it's not that way with this specific issuance, but again, when we compare it, and the slide's down, and that's fine, you don't need to put it back up. When we compare it with these others, the majority of whom didn't even need advisory services, to accomplish the loans, or any fees to accomplish loans, it just stands out. The thing that stood out, this is the highest fee we've ever seen. That's really what brought it to attention last month. Going back to the $25 million GO issuance and going back to the testimony from last week, it was stated in the testimony that the fee here for this borrowing is as much as or very similar or the same to the SRF rates. And what I would say for the record is I don't think that's an apples to apples comparison. The SRF loans are continually monitored. There are hundreds of them on a daily basis, have to be managed and monitored. It's an ongoing thing, and much more service is delivered on an ongoing basis for an SRF loan at a lower rate. And so I wanted to acknowledge at least that bit of testimony and say I don't necessarily think it's an apples to apples comparison. Another thing that is done oftentimes is debt is issued for 20 years as opposed to 30 years, which is another issue there. Again, I understand that today's meeting is not for the purpose of offering any kind of approval of anything, because it's impossible for us to do that based on the action of the TBOR last week, which kind of froze the ability of this utility to offer debt. One question that I offered to you privately and another one that I want to offer to you today is, as a board, as management, I am very transparent about the fact that I believe we need fewer utilities in Tennessee. The cost, the exploding cost of infrastructure, the exploding cost of construction and things like that necessitates mergers for survival, especially as you start looking at these most rural, small utility operations across the state. And so I understand that you're pursuing this debt in solution to a problem, decaying infrastructure and broadening your customer base. But it seems to me like in the region of the state you're in, to do right by your ratepayers, you should at least examine the idea of merger with another utility of a same or bigger size, or maybe one that is stronger. Have you all ever explored that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Mr. Comptroller, yes, sir, we have. We have, when the wastewater thing first came up, when we started having failing septic systems in our county, things like that, we approached TBOR? Who did we approach about? We looked at our two neighboring utilities, which are Benton and Cleveland, and tried to get both of them, who have waste treatment facilities, to work with us on that. That way we wouldn't have to build one. We could just drop a pipe in the ground and ship it over. And I was not present during those meetings, but who wants to talk about that? Is it okay with you if
Please,
Thank
yes.
you.
All right. Yeah, that was one of the first things that actually the Chattanooga TDEC office mentioned. So we did go to both Cleveland utilities who, for not getting into something I shouldn't talk about, but they can't get out of their city limits with their sewer. So, or wholesale the effluent there into their system. So we went over to Benton, and there are other issues, capacity issues, that kind of thing. And we actually went, for an ARPA, a competitive event where we would, a collaborative event, and of course it didn't quite make the funding. So we still, try to get something, from one of those guys, but it's just, they're just, politics gets into the play. So, but we'd appreciate any advice that you could give us. So
yeah. And then, Mr. Chairman, the last question I'll have, and then I'll get out of the way for others to ask questions, is in regard to your rate structure. Again, testimony at the T-Board last week dealt a lot with your rate structure. For those of you familiar with T-Board operations, when you're in financial distress, you have to have a rate study. I think you all testified you have a routine rate study every 3 years, and you used a well-established firm called Jackson Thornton to perform your rate study. However, when they produced a rate, or when they conducted the rate study, number one, they did not contemplate the full scale of this requested debt issuance. But number two, when they did produce you a rate proposal, you decided to go in a different direction and adopt a rate structure that would effectively increase rates on your ratepayers by 120% or more over the next 3 years. I know one thing that the T-Board indicated is that you needed to look at again, using Jackson Thornton and a new rate structure that did contemplate the full scope of this potential debt issuance. And I just mentioned that for the record. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. And then again, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. Yes, we did have Jackson Thornton come in. The board reviewed it, the management reviewed it, OHM advisors and Kidwell advisors all reviewed it. And at that time, they did not include, there was a miscommunication. It did not include the $15 million that we felt necessary to keep moving forward with the degrading HDPE pipe in the ground. So we included that. And then Kidwell and Company, Mr. Kidwell came up with a different structure. I guess there's a lot of different ways to look at it. That, if I'm not mistaken, Jackson Thornton was 37% day one, something like that. And then the way, I don't want to speak for Mr. Kidwell, but the way I understood it was we would do a 25, 25, 25, so that we're not hitting them all at once, because we don't need to hit them all at once. But there was $15 million more of debt service there that we had to, that did bond testing, I think, for the TLDA.
Right. Of course, the 25, 25, 25 has the compounding effect of resulting in at least 120% rate increase in
Yes,
3
sir.
years,
Yes,
with
sir.
the proposal to increase an additional 10%, I think, the 2 years after that. So again, that's just something. Mr. Chairman, I'll step out of the way.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. Other questions from the board? Yeah, Mayor?
I would just ask, like, relevant to you exploring the possibility of a merger, you only looked on the wastewater side and you didn't put any inquiries out there that were based on the system in its entirety? Because I can understand why an entity wouldn't be prepared to just take over one side of it.
Madam Mayor, what we were looking for at that time was somewhere to take our effluent. So that would spare us having to build our own within our own district. I guess a merger was not necessarily exactly the way we worded it with them. We were just looking to partner with them and work together to try to get rid of the effluent. Does that answer your?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And then I just wanted to reflect on listening to the meeting last week as well. And I was particularly concerned about what those rates would potentially look at for your ratepayers as time goes by, because they're already pretty sizable, at least compared to what I know. And then I was concerned, obviously, about the fees. And then probably the most striking thing related to the condition of the district was, and I get the pipe degradation because we've experienced that in our own system, but just the water loss. It sounds like the water loss is exactly what you're purchasing, and so that should be the focus versus the trying to necessarily replace your treatments. So that's all. I'm sorry.
Yes, I'll kind of speak on those terms and kind of come back to the regionalization question I think that you asked and didn't really get an answer on. But so with respect to the water loss issue and the HDPE issues that have been escalating over the past 8 years or so, the district has spent upwards of $8 million in that time period aggressively trying to keep up with those issues. So part of this $25 million issuance, $15 million of it is focused on continued capital replacement, unfortunately, of pipe that is not even 15 years in the ground, and we're not able to get our fully depreciated amount out of. So that's a whole nother issue when it comes to audited finances when you talk about depreciation. So the other $10 million is focused on matching the funds from ARPA, from the ARP money, which we're under the gun right now, as you know. So that's another big concern that we have. We just took bids on the wastewater plant, and we're coming up on 1 year to get that done. The district spent the match money. We got a bond many years ago in 22 for the purpose of matching the ARP. Well, they had to spend it. They couldn't just ignore the water gushing out of the ground out of a 12-inch water main leak. So they have depleted their funds, the cash, to be able to do the ARP. So that's another big concern that we have right now, that we're under the gun for this TDEC ARP. So, when you look at the water plant, this water plant debt, I also want to clarify that is, you're looking at $37 million. 20 million of that is the process plant. 17 million of that is new mains, some of which, or majority of it, is strategically replacing some of those failing lines. So it's not just 37 million for a water plant, for a water source. It's nearly 50% in mains and process. So, there's been a lot of planning. This plant has been on the books for 18 years. This is not something that has just developed overnight. We've had to move the site due to wetland issue, property issues, you name it. We have run into a lot of roadblocks with this project over the years. So on the regionalization, I'd like to answer the question and ask a question, is that for a district of this size, is it really practical to talk about merging with another utility? I can understand, and I fully support, and I know of a lot of situations out there with utilities that are very small. I know of one that their bills are $90 a month, okay, 400 customers. The closest utility to take them over is a 4,500 member utility. I've talked to them about it. They're like, no, we're not going to do that. Because is the expectation on regionalization that you completely absorb and level the playing field of the user rates? I don't, maybe so. Over time, maybe it takes 20 years to get there. But in the short term, 3 to 5 years, Ocoee Utility District is a very successful utility district in terms of its growth over the years since I've worked there. When I first started working there, it was 3,000 customers. We're now over 8,000. And then we've added the wastewater component because of the environmental impacts that are happening with the failing septic tanks. We've got massive subdivisions in Bradley County that have failing septic tanks. So we've got a mixture of decentralized systems, and now we've come up with an idea to develop a centralized wastewater treatment facility. And so coupled with the ARPA funding, we can really make an impact in that community for wastewater and continuing to support those residents who have the failing systems, as well as the growth that's happening in that area. You should all be familiar with Cleveland area. There's a lot of growth, industrial growth coming out of Chattanooga, a lot of people moving there. And, Cleveland doesn't have a lot of more developable area, but Ocoee does. And they are knocking on the door. We have 1,000 new lots on the books of developers coming in, knocking. They want to build. Well, we need more water. We've got failing pipe system, and I'm not going to get off into that because that's a whole nother rabbit hole. And we're actually in executive session on that, discussing how we're going to handle that, because that is a big price tag. It's bigger than the money that we're talking about right now. And we're going to need a lot of help. So when we start talking about regionalization, I don't know in this situation that regionalization is a true solution, because we could go to Cleveland Utilities, we could go to East Side. I can ask Jay Mullins. Jay,
I mean,
you want to take over East Side, but we've got a $60 million problem, even more. Are you going to take that $60 million of debt and spread that over your customer base to support a COE? He's probably going to say, no.
I can understand, especially with the land area that you cover, but I think that those potential mergers always need to be examined for the sake of the ratepayers. Because where you are now, you're not going to be able to grow because and never get an economy of scale because you're so bound by your existing condition. How much ARPA funds are you standing to have to turn back?
$3 million.
Okay, thank you.
But if we have to, if we can't get this $25 million issuance and we have to turn that in, then to go back and do it the Kidwell way, go get a bond and start over, that's probably worth more than $5 million in terms of the grant that we're going to lose. So that's one issue there. But cost of service for a rural system compared to a municipal system is a lot more to push that water way out there.
Yeah. I think Mayor Brown did a good job of summarizing there's about 4 or 5 concerns, particularly that are pretty high level concerns. And I think she did a good job of summarizing that in your question. And I appreciate that. I also want to ask about that ARPA, or maybe just encourage you to get that done, or it will be lost. I've been very involved in the ARPA distribution, and we're running out of time on that, and don't want you all to lose that, but we are running out of time.
Well, that's tied to this,
Yeah. I think
because
that's what he's
TBOR has
saying.
frozen.
Exactly. So, yes.
I think it's important to point out, you're already getting your water from East Side, right?
Portion of the water.
So you wouldn't need a new treatment plant necessarily, or at least not to the same extent, because you're getting your water from East Side.
A portion, very small portion of the total system. The system COE has 2 primary treatment facilities. They're well treatment facilities, well supplied, not surface water. So the majority of water is produced and treated within the district. So there's a small area from East Side, so we are connected. But if we went to East Side and said, we need you to provide the long-term water, they're 20 plus miles away in terms of the infrastructure connectivity to guarantee that for the long term. Cleveland has the Hiwassee Utility District, Hiwassee Water Commission. They've got a plant that we have a connection with. We can get some from there, and we've got an interconnect with Cleveland Utilities directly. Some of that we have to tap into every now and then, but the majority of the water comes from its own sources.
Mr. Chairman, I know we have gone long, and to try to kind of bring this to a conclusion or a head for today, not trying to cut anybody off, this is what I would say. As I told you when we met privately, I assure you that this board is committed to working to help you and your ratepayers. I assure you that the TBOR is committed to working to help you and your ratepayers. That being said, there are some big issues outstanding here, and I commit that our board staffs will work with you right away, to help address these issues. I continue to have a concern about the USDA deal, and would ask you all to produce written documentation from the USDA saying they are kosher with the way this deal is structured. That would be a key indicator, and that would be important if you can get that. So, Mr. Chairman, that being said, there's not really a motion to make, so to speak, other than to say that I think this particular item will be deferred indefinitely to a future meeting. Could be next month, could be longer. But, Mr. Chairman, I will make the motion that we ask the TLDA board staff to examine the concept of a policy that would require demonstration of bid process for financial advisory services for utilities that are seeking these kind of approval for loans.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second? Second. It's been seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All right.
And just to say that would be for the board to examine and maybe propose potential policy and report back.
All right. All right. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That motion passes. We are over time. Want to appreciate everybody coming by. Are there any final burning questions or comments before we move toward adjournment?
I had just one quick
Yeah, go ahead,
thought.
Mary
I'm
Brown.
sorry.
Sure.
I'm speaking what I'm thinking, but it seems like the fee associated with the USDA issuance would be for a rating that's going to occur regardless with the bond issuance. I mean, you're not doing two separate ratings, I would think. So to me, that makes it challenging for me to be okay with that there too.
All right, thank you. I would also say, it seems to me that time is of the essence for you all, so I would encourage you to move quickly on all of this. Anything else? Anything else for the authority? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. It's non-debatable. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming and being a part of this meeting. Appreciate it.